Ladies and gentlemen, this is Tennyson E Stead, the writer and director of Quantum Theory, founder of 8-Sided Films, here to discuss today on the 8-Sided blog an acting concept which I think sort of serves as the boundary between merely adequate performance and actually good performance. So it's a milestone that actors reach when they've been working on their craft long enough to sort of expand their options in scene work to the point where they can make really compelling choices. And that dividing line is the difference between reaction in a scene and response. So, a little bit about acting theory. When an actor is in a scene and they're engaging with the other actors and they're pursuing their goal, whatever their goal might be, and the other actors around them are pursuing their goal, one of the actors around them does something in the scene that either interferes with them in some way or interrupts their process, which is what scene work is. That's the conflict. One person wants one thing, another person wants another thing. They get in each other's way. Only one person can have their way, right? So when you hit that point where Darth Vader tells Luke that he wants to enslave everybody in the galaxy and it's for their own good, right? Luke's mission to liberate everybody in the galaxy is interrupted by Darth Vader. Now, Luke has to make a choice. And in that moment, a really exceptional actor has been doing scene work for so long that they sort of have a menu in front of them that they choose from. They can see, I could do this, I could do that, and it's all happening very quickly because they've been doing it so often that their brain just breaks this down for them. It's not something that you can do consciously, but it's something you have access to. All of these menu options are called impulses, okay? Now, in that moment where one person is doing something or telling you something that says, no, you can't have your way, there's two obvious impulses, which are, number one, to increase the stakes. In other words, to say, oh yeah, well, you can't have your way in some way, shape, or form, or on the other hand, to back down. Now, both of those options are just a reflection of what the other person is giving you. Just like in real life, the scene is not going to move forward as effectively if you choose one of those two options. If you're trying to get something from somebody and your only two choices in real life are, oh yeah, or okay, I'm sorry, then you're not going to get very far. And it's not interesting. That's how resentment builds. That's how scenes get worse, both in performance and in real life. And hopefully, the writer has given an actor at least access to some better impulses than that. So you want to find the most compelling route. You want to find the third route. Now, a bad director, frankly, is going to come in and say, well, the strong choice is to say, oh yeah, every single time. And frankly, that is where a lot of the acting that we identify as bad acting comes from. It comes from actors, being pushed into a position where they have to make the obvious strong choice as opposed to the more subtle strong choice, okay? Now, in real life, when people don't give us our way right away, number one, we're almost always expecting it because we know people and we know things aren't going to be easy for us all the time. And number two, we come into situations with our own hang-ups, with our own complications. So really good scene work is not about finding a reason to say, oh yeah, that's compelling and real. It's about finding another dimension through which to approach the problem. One of the first things that actors learn as they develop their skills in scene work is that almost every kind of conflict is sexy. So one direction you can always go, and one direction many actors often exploit in all levels of quality, is the notion that somebody not giving them their way is a little bit hot. And right away the scene gets more interesting, which is why actors play sex games in the green room and goof around with each other so much. It's because that's an always accessible third path that you can take. Is, ooh, I'm excited. I'm thrilled by the fact that you're standing in my way. A really, really great actor keeps working on their scene work to such an extent and for such a long time that menu actually gets very diverse and very interesting, and they gain access to a lot more options even than that. A lot of actors in the moment will instantaneously understand the motivations of the other person in the scene, and if their character and if the choices in front of them give them access to the impulses, meaning if the writer has allowed their character to be the kind of person who would understand where this other character is coming from, they'll automatically get in the other character's shoes and try and move them out of the way with understanding. You know what I'm saying? They'll whatever's on the script, they'll say it with a sense of acknowledgement for what the other actor is going through, what the other character is doing in the scene, and see if they can't make headway in that way. And, automatically, so what you've got there, for example, just to step away from the Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader analogy, is more of a Charles Xavier Magneto analogy, where Charles Xavier understands Magneto's point, and Magneto understands Charles Xavier's point, and they continue to disagree anyway. And the reason why you wind up with such a compelling scene whenever you've got, for example, Ian McKellen playing Magneto and Patrick Stewart playing Charles Xavier in the X-Men movies, is because you've got two masterful actors playing characters that cannot agree on a perspective and cannot agree on an approach to a problem, even though they understand each other's points pretty much 360. So they'll understand each other. That's why they don't just kill each other in the moment. It's because they understand the validity of one another's points, and they're still going to try and find a way to create a consensus. They're hoping that there can be a consensus. Both characters are hoping they can win the other one over. Always. In every scene that they're in. And they're also so dedicated to their causes that they understand that if they can't win the other one over, they have to move forward regardless. Okay? And the excellence of those two performers is a huge part of what makes the conflict of the X-Men movies compelling. It's because they're not oh-yeah-ing their way through the scene. They're not reacting to one another. They're responding to one another. So, when, as an actor, you're working on your scene work and your craft, you want to keep engaging in scene work classes and keep engaging in scene work partnerships that allow you to develop your ability subconsciously in the moment to listen to what other actors are giving you and find as many responses as possible from your character's perspective to the problem that you're being presented with and to the obstacle that's in front of you when it comes to achieving your goal in the scene, okay? Because if your library of impulses in any given moment, because it changes from moment to moment. Actors give you other stuff, certain impulses shut down because they've been shut down and they're not real anymore. Other impulses come up if you're aware and you can pay attention. Things actors are doing will open up doors for you that maybe weren't there a second ago. As those impulses become more clear and as they become more varied on the menu in front of you, you will become much more nuanced as a performer, and your performances will become much more unexpected, while at the same time still being a representation of what's right there on the page in front of you, of what's in the script. Because it's not about finding the most direct route to providing what the writer has put on the page. It's about finding the most direct route to the character's goal. And the writer has created the character's goal. They've put that there on the page. But people don't always do the thing that they're most compelled to do. And sometimes people surprise themselves. And in fact, I think that happens a lot more than people realize. And the more we represent that in our work, the more interesting and the more compelling, and frankly, the more inspirational that work becomes, because we gain access through watching these characters to a lot of the moments and a lot of the opportunities that we've had in our own daily lives to respond to a problem instead of simply to react to it. And the consequences of that are also educational. So, so doing our best work is in large part about opening ourselves up to the possibilities and taking stock of the library of impulses creatively that we have access to, and then choosing the most interesting and most compelling one from a place of openness as opposed to a place of reaction. And the thing that I want to make clear in this video is that having access to those impulses takes a lifetime of work. There's always further that we can go, even as we develop as actors, as we develop our body work, as we develop our physical, all of the different, in fact, here's the last thought, all of the different mechanisms of performance, whether we're talking about movement training, whether we're talking about voice training, whether we're talking about the scene work training that comes from, for example, classical theater work, whether we're talking about active listening like you learn in the Meisner classes, whether we're talking about engaging impulses as aggressively as possible, which is what you learn in sketch comedy. All of these different skills open up different kinds of impulses, and the more we build all of those different muscles, the more all of those lessons integrate into much more refined, complex impulses all around, okay? And the much more it opens up our range. So keep working, keep taking there's no point at which you've learned enough where your impulses are as wide-ranging as they're ever going to be. It's just not possible. There's not enough lifetimes in your life for that. So stay on it, keep working, put in the time, and take note of how rich the impulses that really accomplished actors are choosing actually are. Watch performances with subtlety, because all you're seeing is an impulse that's not obvious. You're arriving at an impulse that individual actor brought to that particular character, through their own experience, through all the training that they've built into their body, so that their mind and their body are doing a huge amount of the work of producing those impulses before they're even aware that they're there, and those habits are what's serving them in that moment. And you're also watching a reflection of how that actor interacts with the script. And you have control over all of those elements of performance. So develop it all the time, develop it. That is the end of this blog. Thank you for watching. If you're enjoying these 8-sided blogs, give us a subscribe on the 8-sided films channel right down here. Pretty soon we're in pre-production on our web series Declassified, which is about Cold War government projects brought to light, old archival footage from the 70s and the 60s that has been unearthed and declassified by the military. It's all fictional, even more perhaps relevant today when we have our government making such stupid, ridiculous decisions constantly. We're excited to be bringing season 1, which will be Project Icarus, which is the story of an astronaut outside the official space program that was sent on a one-man, one-way mission to Saturn's moon of Titan, because in the late 70s we had nuclear rocketry in development. We had the Saturn V rocket, which was capable of sending men to the moon, and we thought, why not make an attempt to send a manned spacecraft to Saturn's moon? We didn't have the technology to bring him back, of course, but we were able to cobble together the resources to try a one-way mission. So this one person is going to sit in a space capsule crammed in there for 8 years while he attempts to keep himself and his spacecraft in working order to attempt the landing. And I think it's going to be a pretty compelling series. I think there's a lot of meat for actor Gerard Marzilli to tear into. We're rehearsing now. Our set is under construction down in San Diego. We're going to run down and pick it up in a few weeks, and then we're going to start shooting. So we're excited. It's all going to be done in the style of old 70s video documentary footage that's been transmitted back to Earth from a camera that NASA has mounted inside the spacecraft to keep an eye on the astronauts. So it should be, pretty entertaining and challenging work, and we're excited to bring more seasons of Declassified as we sort of work through our repertory production schedule of feature films. Quantum Theory is moving forward. I'm happy to give updates as they become available, but right now it's just the work of development is a constant grind. I've talked a little bit about that in the past, and if you have questions, please let us know in the comments. Give us a subscribe, give us a thumbs up if you like the video. Have a great evening, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.